Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama, downtown Northport. How we doing on this beautiful Thursday? Oh my gosh, scorching hot Thursday afternoon, August 24th. Thank you so much for jumping in and joining us on the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. You're looking at us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. Really, anywhere that you get your podcasts, you can look up the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. Of course, I am Joe Gaither. You are the listener, the viewer, and I love you very, very much. I appreciate everybody putting up with us, and obviously jumping in on a little bit later day, on a little bit later time on Thursday. I just left the Naylor Stone Media Room. We heard from Darian Dalcourt and Dallas Turner, so that's why I'm a little bit late today. I apologize to each and every one of you guys. If you were expecting me at 1 o'clock, that's where I was, listening to Darian Dalcourt and Dallas Turner. So we're going to have a fun show before we get into it, or hopefully going to encourage you guys to listen and download the other two BamaCentral Broadcasting Network podcasts. We have our friends All Things Bama and Blue Collar Unplugged, All Things Bama with Katie Wyndham and Austin Hannon. Katie Wyndham was right next to me in the Naylor Stone Media Room today. And obviously we got Blue Collar Unplugged with Blake Byler, Matthew Gibson, and Jacob Pickle. Those guys bringing you all things Alabama basketball related. So make sure you're subscribed and listening to those podcasts as well, those programs as well. The three of us together make up the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network, and we are live each and every day right here on BamaCentral.com, the Sports Illustrated home for your Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, what do we got? What do we got today? We're 9 days away from kickoff. Amari Cooper, we're 9 days away from kickoff. We're getting right there. And see, classes have started. Day number 2 of classes. If any of you guys have classes at the university or children at the university, nephews or nieces at the university, their classes got started yesterday. And let me tell you, it's important to be in class on the first day. You got to go get your syllabus. You got to understand how your classes are structured. So a lot of people put off that first day of class, but I would encourage you, based on personal experiences, having terrible classes in a couple of semesters and really good classes other semesters, or performances in other semesters. You got to go to class, get that syllabus, and get things started on the right foot. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about what Nick Saban said yesterday at the press conference at the podium. He spent yesterday about 10, 12 minutes at the podium. You can look at it on BamaCentral.com if you want to listen to it in its entirety. And of course, my man Austin Hannon and Blake Byler were up there last night. I watched it from my own Zoom right here from the living room. So we got to enjoy Coach Nick Saban. We're going to play a couple of his comments and react to them and try to make some conversations out of them right here on the Joe Gaither Show. And of course, I invite you to jump in and join us on the comments section on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. You can look at me up at Joe Gaither6 for all your comments, questions, queries, and complaints. If you want to connect with me on Instagram, Snapchat, any of those social medias, it's at Joe Gaither6. You can check me out. We are really just reporting football stuff and putting up pictures of the dog and the cat. So not too exciting, but of course I would love to engage with you on the social media machines at Joe Gaither6. All right, so let's get it kicked off right with the most important conversation, the most important part of what Nick Saban said yesterday. Our man, Kirk McNair, I believe Kirk is with 24/7 Sports still. Kirk McNair asked Coach Nick Saban about the quarterbacks, and I think Kirk was trying to ask about the offensive line, the running backs, the wide receivers, how they are handling or really performing with different quarterbacks in the rotation each and every day. If you've been listening or paying attention to our show here on BamaCentral, you've heard Nick Saban. We've talked about Nick Saban and his strategy of playing all the quarterbacks with the ones and all the quarterbacks with the twos and all with the threes and really you're cutting down with the fours a little bit, but really Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, Tyler Buckner, and Dylan Lonergan are getting almost equal reps with the ones, the twos, the threes, and so on and so forth, going up against the Alabama defense's ones and twos and threes, trying to prepare and mix and match and really test the Alabama quarterbacks before they make a decision. So with that, rotating the quarterbacks in and out, look, we've had the conversation already about drops. We've heard the conversations about pass protection. And both of those things, I think you can a little bit insinuate that Some of the drops issues, of course, are due to focus, and due to the heat. Oh my gosh, it is brutal heat. Yesterday's heat index was 111 right here in Tuscaloosa. And let me punch on my phone real quick, and we'll see what the heat index is right now in Tuscaloosa as the guys are hitting the practice field right here at 2:30. So they're right out there. Oh my gosh, it's 98, and the heat index is 110. Absolutely brutal heat in Tuscaloosa. So, of course, a little bit of it is due to the heat and due to just the conditions, sweating hands, mental focus. You've got that aspect that needs to be cleaned up for the wide receivers. Now, another aspect for the drops, or another reason for the drops, could be potentially the fact that you're getting 3 or 4 different passing styles coming out of the quarterback's hands. Some of the quarterbacks are throwing a little hotter. Some of the quarterbacks are throwing with a little more touch. Some of the quarterbacks may have better accuracy. You've just got 4 different quarterbacks delivering the football 4 different ways. So maybe, hopefully, ideally, when the quarterback battle is settled, the drops issues will be mitigated just a little bit as the wide receivers can prepare who is throwing them the football week in and week out. I think that's a little bit of an issue of what we're dealing with right now. Now, secondly, the protection issues that you're hearing about in camp and in practice, I think a little bit can be solved by settling down who's going to be the quarterback, by deciding who's going to be the quarterback. So here's Nick Saban. Yesterday, Kirk was trying to kind of ask about the other position groups, and Coach Saban went whatever way he wants to go on the quarterbacks.
Yes, Coach. I wonder if there's a downside when you have the quarterback position and the players taking a long time to separate themselves and make the decision for you, I guess, the way to put it.
Yeah, but that's kind of up to them. Like I said in here before, I told the quarterbacks, I said, quit looking around for me to make a decision about who's going to play. How about you playing good enough that I don't have a choice? That's what you can control. That's what you can do. And somebody needs to do that. And it's sort of, taking shape to some degree, but somebody's got to do it. And, where you all think that, like whoever we name as a starter for the first game, that's like the end of it. It's not the end of it. It's just the beginning. So what if a guy doesn't play good? He's not entitled to keep playing. And the guy that doesn't play is got every opportunity to practice and be more consistent and win the team over so that when he gets an opportunity to play, he plays really well. I mean, we have changed quarterbacks around here a few times during the season. So I know you guys are looking for an end, but it's not even going to be the end in the first game. You're looking at me kind of funny. Am I not explaining that very well?
I didn't explain it very well in my question, I suspect, but I was wondering about
I know what you asked, and I just don't want to answer it because we're going to make the best of it for our team, and our team has to make the best of it as well. So, and whoever plays the position, everybody's got to play well around them and do the best job that they can to help them play well.
All right, that's Coach Nick Saban yesterday talking about the quarterbacks. And I think in that 2-minute clip, you can pick out a handful of different conversations. So the first one I want to talk about, the first conversation I want to bring up and talk about is the comment where Coach Saban says, well, now we've changed quarterbacks in the season before. Okay, Coach, when? When have you done that? Let's look at your history throughout your time. Right here, 07, 08, John Parker Wilson. Pretty much all the way throughout. 09 and 10, Greg McElroy. Pretty much all the way throughout. And you've got, obviously, 11, 12, and 13, A.J. McCarron. Now, A.J. McCarron did win the job in 11 over Phillip Sims. Over Phillip Sims. And for a little bit of time in that 2011 season, the very first game, I believe it was against Kent State, Alabama played 2 quarterbacks and then ultimately decided to go with A.J. McCarron, and he kept the job for 3 years. Deservedly so. Multiple-time national champion, great performer. Oh, my gosh, I will never forget you beating LSU and weeping your eyes out. I was weeping with you, A.J. Absolutely. All right, so you move on from A.J., and you have the quarterback battle. Blake Sims basically wins the job outright in 14. Obviously, it was between he and Jake Coker, and there was a little bit of Cooper Bateman kind of involved there. But it was Blake Sims winning the job right there from the start of the season all the way throughout. Held it all the way until Alabama, unfortunately, lost to Ohio State. All right. So now we're into 2014, or into 2014, 2015. Okay, 2015 is here's where you can kind of decide or discuss. 2015, you've got Cooper Bateman, you had Jake Coker, and there was one more. Philip Ely, was that it? Philip Ely? I believe it was Philip Ely being the third quarterback. But by the time you played Ole Miss, the third game of the year, obviously you lost the game. Terrible. One of the luckiest games I've ever seen in my life from the Ole Miss Rebels. And Jake Coker came in and really gave Alabama its best shot to win the game. Jake Coker held the job throughout the rest of the year. 2015, excuse me. 2016, look, we've gone over this on the program before. We've gone over this. 2016, you've got the Blake Barnett to Jalen Hurts. Blake Barnett last two series. He lasts 2 series before Jalen Hurts wins the job and takes over and is the starter all the way through 16. And then, of course, you bring in Tua in 17. But Tua never supplants Jalen Hurts, never supplants him all the way through 17. And then you get through. You're going through the national. You move into it in the national championship game. So, well, we've had starters. We've changed starters in the middle of the season before. Barely ever, Coach. Hardly ever. You go into the next year, Jalen Hurts is behind Tua Tagovailoa. Tua starts all the way through 18, and then Tua gets hurt in the SEC championship game. Jalen spots him, wins the game against Georgia. Great memory. And then Jalen doesn't supplant him. You go into the college football playoff with Tua Tagovailoa and you get your butt kicked by Clemson. Okay, so when, Coach, have we changed quarterbacks? 2019 was Tua all the way throughout until what? He busts his hip. Terrible accident. Terrible injury. He busts his hip. Then Mac Jones takes his snaps. Obviously, Mac played as well as he could have against LSU, and then throughout the rest of the year, the last couple of games. But Mac, I mean, there was no transition. It was no, you're playing bad, so we're switching quarterbacks here. And then obviously, you know what happened in 2020. Everybody thought maybe Bryce Young would come in and take the job over, but no, it's Mac Jones who held it all the way throughout. When did Bryce Young play? Mop-up duty. Hardly ever. He threw 1 touchdown pass against Kentucky that season. Most of what he was doing was in the fourth quarter after Alabama was blowing teams out in that 2020 season. And then 21 and 22, we don't have to even bring it up. Bryce Young held the job. Bryce Young won the job and held the job, and obviously he was the best player in college football for those 2 seasons. So when, Coach, when have we had quarterback changes through the year? What I hear in this clip here is Coach saying, whoever wins the job in week 1, it's not over. It's the beginning. He says, maybe the guy behind him develops and has an opportunity to get back into it. And maybe the guy who wins the job plays poorly and gets himself pulled. So what are we talking here, Coach? Like 3 weeks into the year, then we're going to be settled? Here's what I hear. I hear Jalen Milroe, who is obviously right now the leader in the clubhouse as we are 9 days away, the leader in the clubhouse and he will, unless something weird happens, he will lead Alabama out against MTSU next week. He will. Now, I do expect that Ty Simpson and I expect at least Tyler Buckner to play in the first game. I do. But is Coach Saban setting up Jalen Milroe for a kind of gun to your head scenario? How well can you play if Coach Saban? How long is going to be the Jalen Milroe leash? Is really what I'm hearing and really what I'm wondering. And with a tight leash, how will that translate into a quarterback performance? Will Jalen Milroe have the ability or have the latitude to make a mistake, to turn the football over? How many times or how far can, the mistakes go? Obviously, Blake Barnett got, 2 series before Jalen Hurts got in. You had the Phillip Sims and the A.J. McCarron game against Kent State, and A.J. obviously looked like the better quarterback, even though both of them had interceptions. So, Coach Saban, when? You say, we've had quarterback changes in the middle of the season before. One time have you really changed quarterbacks in the middle of the year, the Jake Coker National Championship year, and you had that nailed down and locked in by the third game of the year. by the third game of the year, Jay Coker had the job, kept the job, and ran with it. Now, did he always play perfect? No, he didn't always play perfect, but you got to allow the starting quarterback to have a little bit of luck. And obviously, you don't want to have mistakes and you don't want to have turnovers, 100%. But you've got to have a little bit of latitude, a little bit of length, a little bit of slack in your leash to say, okay, you have won the team or you have won the job. It's now your job, and you got to go out and lead and overcome some mistakes that might inevitably happen. Like, nobody's perfect. Even baby Bryce wasn't perfect. Oh, I love Bryce, but and Bryce, honestly, it was as close to a perfect picture, a perfect quarterback as you're going to get. But even Bryce made mistakes from time to time. And Bryce didn't look over his shoulder and see Paul Tyson or look over his shoulder and see Tulia Tagovailoa. Obviously, they both ultimately transferred out of the program. But he didn't look over his shoulder and think, oh gosh, somebody else is coming in for my job. So I wonder, where is the latitude? How long will the length of the leash be for Jalen Milroe in that MTSU game? And how much of that MTSU game will translate into who's starting against Texas? What's up, CJ Watson? I see you on Facebook. I appreciate you watching and joining us each and every day. You can comment with CJ, interact with him and the program right here on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Joe Gaither 6. We appreciate each and every one of our listeners, CJ. So what is going to be the length of the, you're going to beat MTSU. Pretty much put your money down, guaranteed, right on the money line. I know somebody gambled like $75,000 on an Alabama win right on the money line, and the return is terrible, absolutely terrible. But you're going to beat MTSU based on talent alone. You're going to beat South Florida based on talent alone. Now, Texas is a whole other story. Texas in that second week is going to be a monster. And honestly, Texas has this game circled since last September, when Quinn Ewers got hurt. Last year when Will Reichert made a field goal at the end of the game to put Alabama in front for good. Texas is coming for your neck. And so, obviously, you want to have the quarterback battle settled or in place by the time you play Texas. But will it? Coach Saban yesterday saying, you never know how it's going to be. Just because a guy wins the battle, that's just the beginning. How long will you stretch this thing out, Coach? I'm sorry. And look, Coach Saban, you're the greatest college football coach of all time. You're the greatest college football coach I have ever seen with my own two eyes. And you're probably the greatest college football coach I will ever see with my own two eyes. Sorry, Kirby, you got a long way to go. Same with you, Dabo. Y'all got a long way to go. I'm not going to sit here and say you're doing it wrong, because you are in the fire. And I am not. I am just watching and observing. I'm on the outside watching and observing. But I wonder, as the team tries to gel and the team tries to regain the Bama factor and tries to reestablish itself as the best college football program, and yes, has to reestablish. Let me remind you, Georgia, two-time national champions. I'm sorry, but Nick Saban is not the king in the current castle right now. Not the current king in the castle. Now, he is the all-time king, but right now, Kirby's got his feet up in the castle, in the college football castle. He's got his feet up, ready to go for national championship number 3. Alabama, this is a huge season. This is an important season. And obviously, you haven't seen what you want to see from the quarterbacks quite yet to declare the competition over. And I'm not worried that we haven't decided on a quarterback yet, because as I just illustrated, we have had many, many battles go into the first and the second and some even the third week of the season. But how long will it go? How far are you willing to take it? Are you willing to still be welcoming in Lane Kiffin, welcoming in Quinshon Judkins and Jackson Dart September 23rd? Are you willing to welcome your, not necessarily a rival, but Lane Kiffin thinks he's a rival. Lane Kiffin's going to make a bunch of jokes on Twitter. Lane Kiffin's going to poke at Nick Saban, poke the bear, and Lane Kiffin's going to go for it on 4th down every single time. And Pete Golding's going to try to remake his name in Tuscaloosa by having a good day right here on September 23rd. I'm telling you, that's going to be a huge game. Especially if Alabama's 2-1, if you've lost to Texas. Do you want to continue the battle into the SEC season? Do you want to continue the battle going out to College Station, going out to College Station? What's that, the next week? Yeah, no, 2 weeks after. 2 weeks after you go out to College Station. I feel confident that we'll beat Mississippi State. I do, September 30th. But your big games, like they're right there in front of you. Obviously, you don't want to lose to Texas. We talked about that before. You want to continue to reestablish yourself. You want to build momentum for the season. But if you lose to Texas, it doesn't cripple your season. It doesn't. It's just really a fancy exhibition, honestly. You'll smoke MTSU. You'll smoke USF. But my big circle, boom, Ole Miss comes to town. How long do you want the quarterback battle to go? Do you want Jalen Milroe looking over his shoulder wondering, well, I missed that pass, so here comes Ty Simpson? No, I don't think you do. I think you want to know fairly soon. And really, I think you want to basically go into that Texas game thinking this guy, whether it's Jalen Milroe or Ty Simpson, is our number one quarterback. And we're going to go through the whole Texas game. And you know what? If we get blown, like if things start going catastrophically bad, you change. Of course, you change. Texas will be a great barometer. It will be a very, very good barometer as far as who the quarterback will be and if they can handle the pressure. My biggest concern is Coach Saban's been talking about, we want to see which quarterback is going to make them play us. Who's going to not look over their shoulder and say, was that a good read, coach? Was that the right pass protection, coach? Did you see that throw? Was that a good throw, coach? You obviously want to have the quarterback gain some confidence. You want to say the quarterback say, you know what, this is my team. I'm calling this protection against this front. And if it messes up, it's all right. We're going to make, you want to see the guys make mistakes at full speed. You don't want to see the guys make mistakes with looking over their shoulder because, they're not all in. They're not all invested and they don't feel confident in what they're doing. But you also don't want to get into game situations. You don't want to get into situations where, well, it's just hypothetically, it's going to be Jalen Milroe. You don't want Jalen Milroe to miss a third down pass, throw it out of bounds, and say, oh, crap, I guess Ty Simpson's coming in. Now, I think Coach Saban is got it. He's an expert. He's a professional. He is the tip top. He is a king quarterback manager. Look at what he's done over the course of his career. You end up having the Jalen Hurts Tua Tagovailoa situation, and Jalen sticks around. You manage the situation much better than Kirby you have ever managed your quarterback situation. You do. You keep the talent here in Tuscaloosa. Jalen sticks around and saves your bacon against Georgia in the 2018 SEC championship game. Beautiful moment. Wonderful moment. And what do you do at the same time? You're cooking and preparing Mac Jones. You're prepping and getting him ready for that. Oh, gosh, you're throwing him in 2019. Maybe a little over his head, but by the time you play the bowl game against Michigan, boom, you're smoking teams. You smoke Michigan, then you go into the 2020 season, and you are just steamrolling over all your opponents. And then you obviously are developing Bryce Young at the same time. So Coach Saban, look, the history is there for Coach Saban managing quarterbacks in a professional, positive way, both for the quarterbacks and for the team. Absolutely. So, Coach, with all that said, you are the expert, 100% the expert. I just worry and wonder, and I'm going to play it one more time, how long the leash is for Jalen Milroe, or how long the leash is, if it's not Jalen Milroe, for Ty Simpson even. Ty Simpson got a lot of talent, got a little bit of running ability, got a good arm. But the knock on Ty Simpson has been that he's been throwing practice interceptions too regularly for Coach Saban's liking. So if it's Ty Simpson and, oh my gosh, I just threw an interception and crap, obviously they don't want to throw interceptions. They don't want to turn the ball over. They want to move the football and move the offense and score 50 points a game. They do. How long is the leash? Are the guys going to be playing with a proverbial gun to their head like, oh, you messed up one read, see ya, you're coming out? I don't know if that's the most positive way to develop these quarterbacks. Let's listen to Coach Saban one more time before we transition to another topic here.
Yes, Coach. I wonder if there's a downside when you have the quarterback position and the players taking a long time to separate themselves and make the decision for you, I guess, way to put it.
Yeah, but that's kind of up to them. Like I said in here before, I told the quarterbacks, I said, quit looking around for me to make a decision about who's going to play. How about you playing good enough that I don't have a choice? That's what you can control. That's what you can do. And somebody needs to do that. And it's sort of, taking shape to some degree, but somebody's got to do it. And, where you all think that, like whoever we name as a starter for the first game, that's like the end of it. It's not the end of it. It's just the beginning. So what if a guy doesn't play good? He's not entitled to keep playing. And the guy that doesn't play is got every opportunity to practice and be more consistent and win the team over so that when he gets an opportunity to play, he plays really well. I mean, we have changed quarterbacks around here a few times during the season. So I know you guys are looking for an end, but it's not even going to be the end in the first game. You're looking at me kind of funny. Am I not explaining that very well?
I didn't explain it very well in my question, I suspect, but I was wondering about
I know what you asked, and I just don't want to answer it because we're going to make the best of it for our team, and our team has to make the best of it as well. So, and whoever plays the position, everybody's got to play well around them and do the best job that they can to help them play well.
All right, so that's head coach Nick Saban yesterday in the Naylor Stone media room. Now, look, we can all agree and be on the same page that whatever happens against MTSU won't really matter. You're going to wax MTSU. The defense is going to be able to carry you. The running game is going to be able to carry you, even if the quarterbacks look like poo. Think back to that 2011 Phillip Sims and A.J. McCarron. Yes, A.J. McCarron threw for right at 200 yards, but both quarterbacks ultimately looked like poo. You had both quarterbacks ended up throwing interceptions in that matchup. Now, A.J. operated the offense at a much more efficient level. So, of course, A.J. McCarron got the start going to Texas, or excuse me, going to Penn State. Sorry, got Texas on the mind that week number 2. I think that the situations are similar. I think that you're going to have to just judge and decide who plays the best against MTSU, regardless of the scoreboard. Because, look, that scoreboard could get out of hand quickly. If the defense is giving you the 2016, 2011, 2009 vibes that I think that you're going to receive, then the MTSU offense isn't going to do anything. They're not going to do anything. And so the Alabama offense will have opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to put up points on the board. And look, we've talked about the playmakers on this team before. I love me some Malik Benson. Would love me some Roydell Williams and Jace McClellan. We had my man Michael Bronner on yesterday from WNSP talking about Roydell and Jace McClellan. I love the weapons that are on this team outside of the quarterback. Now, I like the quarterbacks. I like Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. I think that you can win with either of them. So you're going to have to kind of parse through that first week. I think that when you see whoever, which it sounds like it's going to be Jalen Milroe rolling out in that first week, yeah, he's going to get himself 2, 3, 4 series, whatever the case may be, before Ty Simpson gets himself 2, 3, 4 series, whatever the case may be, and whatever's left over for Buckner and potentially Dylan Lonergan is just going to be left over for those guys, and they're going to have to make the most of their reps. So, look, we're all in agreement, Coach. Whoever wins in that first week doesn't really matter. But how long will you let the battle go? Will you let the competition go through the Texas week? Will you take the competition through the South Florida week? Will we go into the Ole Miss game, September 23rd, still wondering who the starting quarterback is going to be, who's really playing the best? If you are, now, look, I don't think Pete Golding impressed a whole lot of people with his defensive prowess over the last 2 years, but they're going to be trying to make a statement. Ole Miss is going to be trying to use that game to put themselves on the map. Lane Kiffin, hashtag come to the SIP, hashtag transfer to the SIP. He's going to try to make it into a bigger affair than it might even be. I wonder and worry about who's going to be how long Coach Saban will take this quarterback battle. Now, of course, with all that being said, you have to back up and give Coach Saban his props and his dues, as we did right before we did that clip for the second time. He's managed the quarterbacks throughout his 17 years. Despite being a defensive coach, people say, oh, he doesn't know anything about offense. Despite being a defensive coach, he has managed the personalities of literally every quarterback that's ever played here in the last 17 years. He's managed them to perfection. Now, you've seen Star Jackson, you've seen Cooper Bateman, you've seen David Cornwell, you've seen Blake Barnett transfer out. You've seen Paul Tyson, Tulia Tagovailoa, and you've seen them transfer out. But as far as star powers, as far as real quality quarterbacks, the ones that Coach Saban has won with. Coaches manage those quarterbacks to the best of, really as good or better than anyone in college football. What happens if you see player X or Y or Z? You got 5 of them to pick from. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to put that juju on them. What happens if you see one of the 5 quarterbacks jump in the transfer portal because they're unsatisfied with how the competition played out? Nothing. Who cares? See ya. Bye-bye. Adios. I trust Coach Saban's quarterback managing ability. Look, the history is there to show that whoever transfers out, they're probably may not be the ones that can hack it at Alabama anyways. And we'll use that to transition to the next topic from Coach Saban's press conference yesterday. This question came from Mike Rodak, who I believe is with 24/7 Sports as well. Mike Rodak just switched from AL.com. This question is from Mike Rodak talking about wide receivers and transfer portal and how Coach Saban has addressed or approached the transfer portal over the last handful of years.
Just how has the transfer portal affected your ability to retain and develop some of the players that you've recruited at wide receiver in particular?
I don't know. I don't know who you're specifically, talking about, but guys are getting transfer portal. This is not for everybody. Okay, so maybe people that want to be here, want to be good, want to do the best they can, develop value for their future and who they are as a person, what kind of requirements we have for them to succeed academically so they can develop a career on the field, and what we're going to do to try to develop them on the field. And I think, I'm not mentioning any names, but there's only like one player that I was really disappointed that, the guy didn't stay here, and I couldn't understand why he was leaving. And, and all the rest of them, they would have contributed if they stayed and had the right attitude, but it's their choice. And, what we have an opportunity to do when guys leave is we have an opportunity to replace them too.
That's Coach Nick Saban yesterday over the Naylor Stone media room, and he talking about that's the comment right there. That's the comment I wanted. Thank you. I just had to pull up the right note. Excuse me. That's Coach Saban yesterday talking about the transfer portal and really how he has utilized the transfer portal. Let's look at last year. Because just for a little added context, Josh Maxson came back in because, look, his comments sparked widespread. Oh my gosh, who's the one player? Who is the guy that Coach Saban didn't want to lose? And I'll tell you right here on BamaCentral.com, right here on the Joe Gaither show, that I was between 2 different players, but I kind of had some other people talking to me behind the scenes and nailed it down to the one player. It's Aaron Anderson. We'll just go right into it. It's Aaron Anderson is who he was referring to. What the one guy I couldn't understand why he wanted to leave. He basically, you got to narrow it. Look, I was between Drew Sanders and Aaron Anderson, but Josh Maxson came back into the room. I was not there, but my man Austin Hannon and Blake Byler were there for BamaCentral. Came back, so Josh Maxson came back into the room saying that he was referring to players who have left in this current cycle after the 2022 season, prior to the 23 season. Okay, so who transferred out after this past season? Trey Sanders went to TCU. Trayshawn Holden went to Oregon. Aaron Anderson went to LSU. JoJo Earl went to TCU. Javion Cohen went to Miami. Demoy Kennedy went to Colorado. And Jaquez Robinson also went to Colorado. Now, so you take that list and you say, okay, it has to be somebody from this last transfer portal season. And then you say, well, the question was framed out of wide receivers. Mike Rodak basically asking how do you utilizing the transfer portal, developing wide receivers, X, Y, Z, and ABC. So you narrow it down to Aaron Anderson and JoJo Earl. I'll just tell you, JoJo Earl going to TCU got himself a big fat NIL deal to get out of there to go to TCU. And JoJo Earl, being from Texas, makes perfect sense. Coach Saban loved Aaron Anderson. Go back and listen to those press conferences before the season last year. Little Aaron Anderson is impressing. Little Aaron Anderson is doing a good job getting open. Little Aaron Anderson might develop into being a weapon for us. Now, unfortunately, Aaron Anderson got hurt last year. I believe he got hurt in the summer. Was that it? Got hurt in the summer, had a knee cleanup, and didn't really play. Let's just be honest. Didn't really play last year. But Coach Saban was very complimentary of Aaron Anderson in the springtime, and really, I think, was planning on him being a pretty valuable weapon, a pretty big weapon into last year's team. Now, JoJo Earl filled the role and did just fine. Ended up having a fine season, but let's all be honest, the wide receivers last year were underwhelming. Ugh. Trayshawn Holden, underwhelming. Jermaine Burton, underwhelming. Ja'Cory Brooks was fine-ish. But still not the same, kind of didn't take the leap that we all wanted Ja'Cory Brooks to take. The wide receiver room was underwhelming. JoJo Earl was fine at times. Isaiah Bond flashed at times. Kendrick Law, all of them flashed at times. You've got immense talent in the room. But last year's performance was just a little bit, left some to be desired. Left a lot to be desired. And so, narrowing it down, Aaron Anderson was the guy, or is the guy, that Coach Saban was most upset about losing. One, because I think he would have been a very big-time contributor here at Alabama. Just putting that right on out there. Second, he went to LSU. We're going to see Aaron Anderson for the next 2 to 3 to 4 years on the field, and he's going to be a pain to cover. I believe that. He's going to LSU, and he's going to be a pain in the neck to cover. So Coach Saban really talking about who different guys in the portal and working through guys. He says the line. He gives you the line. It's not for everyone. Look, that's what we're selling. That's what Alabama is selling in recruiting. You want to come to Alabama, you want to be great, or you want to go to Texas and Oklahoma or USC or whatever, and you might be good, you might be great, you could be great, but it is almost guaranteed. If you come to Alabama, if you're a 5-star recruit, you come to Alabama, we're going to put your butt in the NFL. Now, granted, of course, injuries might happen, and you might have, a stiff competition at your position. Those things might happen, of course. Circumstances are circumstances. It doesn't happen at 100% rate. But throughout 17 years, Coach Saban has proven, if you come to Alabama, you do the things you need to do, you follow the process, we're going to put your butt in the NFL. And if you don't end up in the NFL, it's probably something that you did, or maybe you just couldn't quite hack it. It's fine. It's okay. Alabama's not for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. I'm very happy that Alabama is not for everyone. Honestly, you get troublemakers who have come and gone in the program. Think about the 5-stars who have transferred out over the course of the last handful of years. You get a lot of talent that comes in, but talent alone is not going to get your butt to the NFL, and talent alone does not make champions like we do right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where champions are made. And then let's just say you're not in the NFL. It's fine. That doesn't have to be the be-all, end-all goal. You can graduate in 3 years. You can graduate with a master's in 5 years, or even 4. Really, you look at Mac Jones. I think he graduated with a master's in 4. Like, we will set you up for success after your college days, and that's the main point. That's the main goal. Now, will Aaron Anderson still be successful at LSU? Quite possibly so. I think Brian Kelly is a pretty daggone good coach, and their program is growing and is quickly becoming a problem in the SEC West. I think that LSU game this year is going to be hell. Make sure that you're packed into Bryant-Denny Stadium on that night, because it's going to be Alabama's going to need every bit of you. But Coach Nick Saban, look, the last part of his statement right there is, look, when people leave, we can get people into the transfer portal as well. Alabama didn't utilize the portal near as much this year. You brought in Tresman Marshall. Let's see. You brought in Trey Amos. You brought in Jalen Key. Is there anyone else that I'm absolutely missing out of that? Alabama from the transfer portal? You brought in Jalen Key, Trey Amos, and Tresman Marshall. So 3 guys on the defensive side of the ball. Malik Benson doesn't count as a transfer because he's a JUCO. Let's see. That was it, right? No. CJ Dupree. Thank you, Joe. CJ Dupree also from the transfer portal. And look, I do think CJ Dupree is going to be a heck of a weapon here in the passing game in the Tommy Rees offense. So, to kind of wrap up the Alabama discussion, and we'll move on to one more SEC football topic to close our day. I appreciate everybody watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. BamaCentral, the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports, the Sports Illustrated home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. To wrap it up here, everything that Coach Saban said yesterday, I think is, Coach feels that way. And I appreciate when he comes into the media and gives us good content. I think yesterday was a pretty good press conference as far as updating you on the team. And CJ Watson, if you saw his comment that I posted earlier, I think CJ is exactly right. I laughed at Saban. His quote, I don't really want to answer it, to Kirk McNair's question on quarterbacks, which tells me he knows who's going to play quarterback, but he isn't going to say, I think it's settled until game play or game day, and it'll be whoever starts job to lose. I think he's exactly right. Jalen Milroe, you're going to get the first 2 series against MTSU. Take us down. Oh my gosh. Come out, go 12 plays, take us down and get your butt in the end zone. Get your butt in the end zone. And even if it's a 3-play quarterback scramble for 65 yards. I mean, whatever you do, get Alabama into the end zone in those first 2 series. Don't turn the football over. Oh my gosh, go back to Coach Saban with the kickers and punters. End every drive in a kick, whether it be a punt, a field goal, or an extra point / kickoff. End every drive in a kick, because this defense is going to be absolutely nasty. Dallas Turner over in the Naylor Stone media room earlier today basically saying, we think we can be a great defense. We think that we have all the tools. There's no weaknesses on this defense. You can read Katie Wyndham's report on BamaCentral.com right now. Katie Wyndham just hit publish on her Dallas Turner piece. Look, everything is there. Everybody thinks, I've heard it for the last 6-8 weeks. Alabama doesn't have a quarterback. I think we do have a quarterback. I think Nick Saban just wants the quarterback, Jalen Milroe, to play consistently at a high level, to take over the team and to find some confidence in himself. My main concern is just letting the battle go too much further past the Texas game. Once whatever happens against Texas, you got to find your guy. I mean, MTSU is not going to matter as much. It's going to be a live audition. You'll get 2 or 3 drives out of Jalen Milroe. Then you'll get 2 or 3 drives out of Ty Simpson. And it'll basically, at that point, be who leads the team in those 3 drives into the end zone. And look, I don't care who it is. You hear me hyping up Jalen Milroe. If it's Ty Simpson, roll Tide to him. And let's have a great season with Ty. I think both guys can do it physically. Both guys can do it from an athletic standpoint. I think both guys can deliver the football, and both guys can be dangerous quarterbacks for defenses to prepare for. We just worry that the quarterback battle, I don't really want the quarterbacks to be thinking, oh my gosh, I have a gun to my head. The second I make a bad throw, the second I make a bad read, the second I get sacked, the second that I turn the football over, I'm going to be gone and I'm never going to see the field again, a la Blake Barnett. I mean, Blake Barnett was out there 2 series and Jalen got out there and you never saw Blake again, ever. And I mean, we've heard from Blake in media afterwards and it sounds like he's learned a lot of lessons from that experience, but you didn't hear from Blake Barnett ever again. Not in an Alabama uniform. It was Jalen Hurts taking over, even though Jalen fumbled. He went right back out there and slung that touchdown pass, 60, 70 yards? Was it Ardarius Stewart? No, it was Calvin Ridley, on the receiving end of that first touchdown pass, and the rest was history. So how far, Coach, will you let the quarterback battle get into the season? By the time Ole Miss comes to town September 23rd, we got to know who the leader is. You got to know who the leader is, and you got to roll out there, put a game plan together for that leader. I mean, you didn't ask Jay Coker to throw the ball 1,000,000 times. You didn't ask Blake Sims to throw the ball 1,000,000 times. You didn't ask Jalen Hurts to throw the ball 1,000,000 times in 16 or even really 17. You didn't ask Mac Jones to run the football. You didn't ask Tua Tagovailoa to run the football, really. And that's fine. Suit the offense to their skill sets. By the time Ole Miss comes to town, look, Pete Goldie's going to be trying to bleep you in the rear end. When we got to be ready for it. Lane Kiffin's going to go for it on 4th down every single time that he can. Every time that he can mentally justify it, he's going to go for it. Of course, you want to beat Texas. We do. We all want to beat Texas. They're going to talk a bunch of mess. They're going to talk so much. Oh my gosh, the eyes of Texas are upon you. They're going to be talking so much. And really, whatever happens in the game, they're going to continue to talk because they're coming into the SEC. It doesn't matter. Look, you went out to Austin last year and beat them, and the Texas fans are still talking junk. Still. Oh, you got lucky. No. I don't really feel like it was luck. There was some bad calls on both sides of the ball, but goodness gracious, you want to beat Texas. But the real season starts on September 23rd. I know we're 9 days away from the season getting going right now, but the real season gets started on September 23rd when Ole Miss rolls into town. You get the two Mississippi schools in back-to-back weeks, and it's got to be balls to the wall, 100 miles an hour, joyless murder ball, the Alabama Anaconda choking teams out and reclaiming the SEC West. It starts right there. And so, Coach, don't let this quarterback battle go too much further into the season. I understand first game, quarterback audition, both guys got to play well, or the starters got to play well to keep the job. But on September 23rd, when Ole Miss comes to town, you got to know who the leader is, and you got to tailor a game plan for that leader. All right, last topic for the day, and it involves our friends down in the Bayou, Mason Smith, right? Yeah, Mason Smith is who I want to talk about right now. Look, I am not an LSU apologist. I'm not an LSU apologist, but I do love college football. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I love college football, and the next week, you're going to get a great game between LSU and Florida State. Except you're not going to see one of the best defensive linemen in college football this year. Mason Smith is a pretty studly defensive lineman if you haven't heard of him before, for LSU. And if you haven't kept up with the news, that's okay. Mason Smith is suspended for the first game of the season. Why is he suspended? For receiving impermissible benefits. What? Impermissible benefits in an NIL era, and he's getting suspended for the first game of the year. He's getting suspended for one of the biggest opening games of the year. One of the biggest. Oh gosh! Oh, it's so upsetting to me. Now, Mason Smith. Why? What is this impermissible benefit? Excuse me, if I can continue to talk. What is this impermissible benefit? It sounds like the benefit that he did before NIL became legal, before NIL became really rolling in 2021, Mason Smith and Kayshon Boutte were at an autograph session, selling autographs. Oh my gosh. NCAA, NCAA, you make my head explode. You make steam coming out of my ears. And I'm not sitting here to defend LSU. I'm not sitting here trying to, look, I'm not going to have purple and gold glasses on. Of course, I respect their program. Very, very talented. Always great players. Always a heck of a battle with LSU or with Alabama. Great. It is what it is. But the fairness, the unfairness, the NCAA, you're going to suspend Mason Smith. I mean, and granted, you can't, I guess, control who's on the schedule. But Kayshon Boutte last year missed two different games. One of the games, Coach Brian Kelly said he was out because of illness. And we have come to later find out that illness was a one-game suspension from the NCAA due to receiving impermissible benefits. Well, Mason Smith last year was hurt all year long. Mason Smith, I believe, tore his ACL. Do I have that right? Smith last year the Seminoles. Yes. But last year the Seminoles left New Orleans, winning 24-23, nail-biting victory over the Tigers from a blocked field goal from Shaheem Brown as seconds dwindled away in the fourth quarter. Smith suffered a season-ending ACL injury in that matchup and could not participate in the rest of the game. So he missed basically the rest of the Florida State game and the rest of the year. And the NCAA, you are so full of mess. That's the nicest way to say it. You're so full of crud. You're so full of hooey that you're going to suspend. Look, I understand. We got to be fair, I guess. But you're going to go retroactively back to 2021 and say this player suspended for one game for receiving impermissible benefits because he handled an autograph session before NIL was legal. Oh my God. I mean, this is just mind-blowing, and I'm sorry. Like, this just shows the petty nature of the NCAA. And going back to off-season conversations when we talked about Jim Harbaugh, and we talked about Jeremy Pruitt, we talked about Tennessee. It is high time. It is high time the college football world separates from the NCAA. That way you can revert all the conferences back to regional conferences. You bring the Pac-12 back together. You keep the Big Ten back together. The Big 12, has their same Midwestern schools. NCAA, you're absolutely a joke. It's time for college football to break away as a whole, to govern themselves separately from the NCAA, because, look, you're operating two different entities. The NCAA is still trying to operate a nonprofit organization where it's kind of a for-profit with the NCAA basketball tournament, but they're clinging to football, governing over football, a place where they have no real jurisdiction. They have no real authority. It's just absolutely baffling to me. And so for a fan of college football, I will be watching the LSU-Florida State game. I'm sure you guys will be watching it as well, probably on a smaller screen, as you guys will be going to be paying attention to Alabama and MTSU. But just a terrible, terrible decision. Now, look, I'm not cheering for LSU in that matchup. I'm not really cheering for Florida State in that matchup. I don't really cheer for teams anymore. I just cheer for stories, and I just cheer for entertainment. And it would be more entertaining if LSU had their best defensive lineman on the field against Florida State and their Heisman Trophy contending quarterback. It's going to be a huge game. And to miss him, sure, LSU's going to be fine and whatever. You still got to play the game. And LSU still might win, absolutely, and it still might be an incredible game. But it is a true shame to suspend Mason Smith for receiving impermissible benefits, and the benefits were he and Kayshon Boutte had an autograph session before NIL was really a factor and really legal. It's terrible. It's awful. I mean, it makes me think of Todd Gurley selling his jerseys. It makes me think of A.J. Green selling his stuff. Kind of makes me think of the textbook scandal here at Alabama. Not necessarily the same thing, but just let the kids, let the athletes make the money. Let the kids market themselves. And to go back and slap this guy on the wrist for something that happened 2 years ago is absolutely laughable. All right, so I appreciate everybody watching me today. It was a great show. It was fun. I thought it was a great show. Maybe you didn't. If you didn't, you can make sure you tell me right there on social media. Joe Gaither 6 for any of your comments, questions, queries, and complaints. Make sure you shoot me a friend request, shoot me a follow, whatever the case may be on your social media platform of choice. We love each and every one of you guys. I love it. Thanks so much, CJ Watson, for jumping in and joining me on the comments section. I appreciate everybody who does. Troy Williams, I see you right there. Thanks so much for joining me as well on the comment section. You guys are awesome. You guys are the reason why we do this each and every day. Make sure you follow BamaCentral. We are the Sports Illustrated home for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Tonight, Alabama is taking on Lipscomb in soccer. Not really a whole lot of big conversation to go into, but you can watch it on ESPN Plus and check out live updates on BamaCentral.com. We'll also have live updates for Hey Coach at 6:30 tonight, the Crimson Tide Sports Network's coaches show. Nick Saban won't be on until next week, but you might still want to check it out to hear from Roger Hoover, Eli Gold, and all of the Crimson Tide Sports Network staff. Obviously, the Crimson Tide Sports Network just announced changes to their broadcast. If you didn't see it, articles on BamaCentral.com, but Eli Gold back in the booth for the home games. Chris Stewart in the booth for the away games. They're both going to be joined by former quarterback Tyler Watt for both home and away games. And, of course, Christian Miller will resume his sideline duties. Former outside linebacker Christian Miller will do his sideline duties for both home and away games. It's going to be great to hear Eli Gold back in the booth this year. We congratulate him and really celebrate him defeating his illness, defeating cancer. We thank God for him really stepping in and healing Eli Gold with that. We pray that everybody can enjoy the season. Absolutely. Oh, my man, CJ Watson. I have my eyes on the soccer field. It's ready to go. Well, the girls are going to be in Nashville at Lipscomb, and then they'll be back. They'll be back at home, I think, on Sunday. So we're really excited for the soccer girls. They're 2-0 already. They should beat Lipscomb. I think they're playing Memphis at home on Sunday. So make sure you come out and join us at Alabama Soccer Complex, I believe, on Sunday evening. So for everybody watching us on BamaCentral.com, follow Blue Collar Unplugged and follow all things Bama. We'll be all over everything Alabama, and I'll be back tomorrow for another edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.